Maps can contain a lot of information, so it's important to guide readers' attention to the most important elements. In this video, I'm going to explain how to do that by establishing what's called visual hierarchy. The basic idea here is very simple. How much attention readers give to different elements on a map depends on the visual appearance of that element and the ones surrounding it. As an example, I'll use this map of personal robberies in San Francisco. On this basic version of the map, there are two layers, one showing hotspots of robbery and a base map that helps readers understand where in the city those hotspots are. On any map, the most important layer is the one showing the data we're interested in. Because that layer is the most important, it should always be what's most visually prominent. In this case, I've achieved that by using a strong colour for the robbery layer, while choosing a base map that uses shades of grey. Since brighter, more saturated colours, or colours that have a greater contrast from the background, are more visually prominent than shades of grey, this helps the robbery hotspots stand out from the background. Colour is just one way that we can influence the visual prominence of elements on our map. We can see this if we add some supporting elements to the map, such as a title and the names of local police districts. Now there are several different types of text on the map. It will be useful to help our readers understand which is most important. You can see here that I've used text size to make the map title more prominent than the text on the map itself, which is in turn more prominent than the copyright statements at the bottom. I've also made some of the text a lighter shade of grey, which makes it less visually prominent by reducing the contrast between the text and the background. Another way to increase or decrease the visual prominence of a map element is to use isolation. Elements that are isolated from their surroundings, such as text that's surrounded by a box of a contrasting colour, or points that are surrounded by a thick line, are more visually prominent than the same element without that isolation. Similarly, if an item is semi-transparent, that will tend to reduce its visual prominence. It can be useful to combine attributes such as size, colour, isolation and transparency to create multiple levels of visual prominence on a map, helping to guide readers to the content we think is most important. Whenever we are making decisions about how to represent different features on a map, it's really important to make sure that the data layer or layers are the most visually prominent, since that's the layer readers need to focus on most to make decisions. All the supporting elements on a map, administrative boundaries, base maps, labels, copyright information and so on, should be less visually prominent than the data layer to avoid distracting from it. So, in summary, creating a visual hierarchy helps guide readers through the maps that we make. We can establish visual hierarchy using combinations of size, colour, isolation and transparency. And we should always make sure that the data layer is the most visually prominent part of our maps.